Hello everyone and welcome back to Destiny. Today we were treated to a massive 5,300 word article from Destiny game director Joe Blackburn. In this annual director's post, he outlines the current challenges with the game along with some major goals to improve and revitalize the entire game experience leading into the next year's final expansion of the Light and Darkness saga, The Final Shape. In this blog post, he also reveals their plans for upcoming seasons, including the reveal of the names of Season 20 and 21, Season of Defiance, and Season of the Deep. We have some details on those seasons, including the yet-to-be-revealed Season 22, some exciting things and some not-so-exciting things. Let's jump in and break it all down. So right off the bat, I want to acknowledge that in the 5,300 word article, not once did we hear about Gambit. I was hoping we would at least get a sentence or two on the state of Gambit, but alas, it's not even on the game director's mind. Gambit represented a time when Bungie was really pushing the envelope on new experiences, and as we'll see here in just a minute, even Joe agrees that Destiny's content is getting a bit stale. I have some bigger thoughts on this that I'll share towards the end, so stick around for that. But Joe starts off by mentioning that while abilities and Guardian power is doing well, the game in the day-to-day is very predictable, and he's not wrong. While the campaigns are becoming amazing and epic, the seasonal content is getting a little drab. And Joe acknowledges that Bungie has lost a bit of that surprise and delight magic. I mean, the game is running on 6 years old at this point, and there is a lot of content still in the game that has been there since launch. He also acknowledges that players are often hit with the frustration that there isn't enough to do, especially towards the end of a season. So with all of these frustrations, Joe has set 4 goals for the team leading up to the Final Shape, which will by all accounts be released on February in 2024. The 4 goals are as follows: expand the players' imaginations, bring challenge back to Destiny, enrich our content, and connect our Guardians. Let's start with expanding players' imaginations. This is where Joe reveals Season of Defiance as the name for Season 20. He mentions that Season of Defiance will operate very similarly to the current seasonal model, as this season was already developed and finished before these new goals were set, although they were able to make some improvements to at least make it feel a little bit more fresh. First, there will be fewer upgrades at the vendor, and the upgrades will be more potent, and some upgrades will offer a variance in the way you interact with the seasonal activity, which sounds like it could certainly keep things fresher for longer throughout the season. They are also doing away with excess currencies and replacing them with a much simpler key system. Keys now have a chance to drop from any activity, including the seasonal activity itself. This means you no longer have to play things like Gambit or Strikes for the seasonal currency if you don't want to. You can now use the keys as an optional end of seasonal activity bonus chest. Focusing will also be simplified and only require the seasonal engram itself, which will now stack up next to the season rank progress. Next, he moved on to revealing Season 21, Season of the Deep. For this season, the team has enough time to change things up, and it will not feature the same upgrade paradigm we are used to. They are also being tasked to create more fresh and unique experiences for activities between seasons, and to maintain the quality and variety of themes between those seasons. He also mentioned that the Guardian rank system and how your player name will no longer feature the season rank. Instead, it will showcase your Guardian rank, which he mentions is a much more meaningful number and a better representation of someone's progress in the game. He also mentioned that some changes are coming to weapon crafting, acknowledging weapon crafting's impact on the novelty of finding god roll drops, or really any drops at all. The changes coming to Lightfall are as follows: to create independent chases for both crafted and non-crafted weapons, starting with Lightfall, fewer of our total weapons will be craftable and more of our weapons with long-term sources will get value from random perk rolls. To allow these non-crafted weapons to stand toe-to-toe with crafted weapons in Lightfall, in the year of Lightfall, more and more of the non-crafted weapons, starting with new Raid Adept this year, will have the ability to be enhanced. Enhancing allows your drop weapons to start leveling up, use mementos, and start to gain access to both enhanced perks and enhanced intrinsic properties, but only the enhanced versions of the perks and masterwork that are already on the version of the weapon you are enhancing. Simply said, with some time and resources, enhancing allows you to take the random rolled weapons you've obtained and enhance its existing roll to match the full power of a crafted weapon. We are targeting to roll this out initially with Lightfall Raid Adept weapons at the launch of Season of the Deep. Long term, we want to expand this functionality to most of the non-crafted weapon drops, but there are some technical hurdles we need to solve first. For crafting weapons, we have some additional changes planned. You will never see deep sight on a weapon unless it is something you need to make a pattern progress on. When you see a red border in game, you know it's valuable. Targeting Season of the Deep, we will also be adding a mechanism to activate deep sight on any craftable weapon they do not have a pattern for. So big changes, big improvements to weapon crafting and red border progress, so let's just hope all of that stuff really pays off this next season. Finally, in the imagination department, they promise that moving forward they will give more of a sneak peek into releases before they go live. I really miss the days where we got 3 developer streams, Vidocs, and several trailers before each of the seasons launched. It really does rebuild hype throughout the year, and it's worth Bungie's effort to market it a bit stronger anyways. Moving on to the second goal, bring challenge back to Destiny. This one I definitely agree with. Destiny's base activities are laughably easy. I'm not even able to get a finisher on a patrol enemy because it's hard not to kill them with a single bullet. Joe acknowledges that Ability 3.0 has exacerbated this issue and that in Lightfall they aim to bring back the challenge to the game by addressing 2 key areas: the player's toolkit and the enemy difficulty. The player's toolkit will be adjusted by moderately increasing the recharge time for abilities and adjusting the damage resistance granted by resilience. The build crafting updates in Lightfall will also balance the buffs to the Guardian damage and survivability. Check out my videos on that for more details on those big changes. The second key area is the difficulty of enemies, and that will be adjusted using the difficulty used in the Heist Battleground playlist, which I've been a huge fan of this season. In addition, next season's base Battleground activity and the Vanguard Ops playlist will use the same difficulty as well, making them more challenging and engaging overall. The power system in Destiny 2 will also be experimented on in the year of Lightfall, with some changes happening behind the scenes and other being more front-facing and center. For example, the power climb in Lightfall will be similar to the Witch Queen. It will have a large progression, but the power or pinnacle cap will not be raised later in the Season of the Deep. I think this is an amazing change, as the power climb is nice for a campaign experience, but frankly feels out of place in an endgame centric experience, which is 99% of this game. I will be curious to see if it continues into Season 22 and 23 as well. The third goal is enriching our content. Here is where we have some changes to the core playlists, minus Gambit of course. First up is PvP with the return of the game mode Countdown. This was one of my favorite game modes at the launch of Destiny 2 and made things really feel unique. It's returning with a new variation that has some additional spawning mechanics. They also aim to run a series of Crucible labs, including modes where the player sandbox is dramatically changed. Weapon damage, ability uptime, and even ammo are all adjusted in the new tentatively titled game mode Checkmate Control. He says this mode will reward players who use their smarts and their skills. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. They also mentioned the return of Meltdown in Season of the Deep, a new Vex network map for Season 22, and the return of Citadel for 23, so take that as it is. He also talked about matchmaking and how it's their goal to provide a fair and balanced match with good connections for all players and skill levels. The focus is on improving connection quality through adjusting algorithms and lobby balancing for a consistent kill spread. The aim is to also upgrade the meta system for PvP modes such as Iron Banner and Trials of Osiris by revamping rewards and matchmaking structures. The objective for competitive mode is to improve player ranking to match their skill level and to make the reason for winning or losing clearer. I'm personally not huge on PvP, but maybe this will entice me to play a bit more competitive. Next in enriching content is the addition of a legacy exotic mission rotator being added in Season 22. This rotator will contain exotic missions from Season 16, 13, and 19. Those are Presage, Vox Obscura, and Operation Seraph Shield respectively. They also will be adding other exotic missions from the past into the fold. Maybe one day we'll see Whisper return. I think using Strand for that jumping puzzle would be super cool. Also in enriching content is an improvement to the Vanguard rituals by increasing the challenge level in the Vanguard Ops playlist. This includes refreshing the Lake of Shadows and the Arms Dealer strikes to match the combat engagement levels of more recent strikes and bringing them back into the fold. The Heist Battlegrounds will also be integrated into the Vanguard Ops playlists. I think there's no shocker there. And they're also going to be starting to be added to the Nightfall rotations as well, starting in Season of Defiance. The Mars Heist Battleground will be part of the Nightfall rotation. Their goal for Nightfall rotations are to make them more engaging, with 4 out of the 6 being new or refreshed content, and they're going to be adding new loadout options. The match game modifier will also be retired from Nightfalls, as we've covered before. The final goal of the year is to connect our Guardians. Here we got an update to Commendations and LFG. The Commendation system will allow players to give thanks to other players they have enjoyed playing with. Commendations will be earned through different activities, and they will help build the story of how other players in the game perceive you. Next up, to improve communication between players, the game is changing its game-wide text chat channels to opt-out instead of opt-in. This gives players more opportunities to reach each other, and they will plan to invest in deeper chat moderation and larger features like speech-to-text in the future. Regarding LFG or Fireteam Finder, Joe mentions that it will be a first-class in-game looking for group tool, allowing players to find fireteams from anywhere in the game, tag their posts with keywords, create groups, and have other options to approve or deny members. The update is that it won't be ready for its initial launch, which was apparently supposed to be Season 22. It will now instead launch for Season 23, alongside the second new dungeon of the year. So those were the big 4 goals Joe and his team have for the 6th year of Destiny 2. The hope is to have all of these changes in place before the final shape next year. Will it be enough to invigorate the seasons? It's really hard to say. As I said before at the top of the video, they didn't really mention Gambit, which is a bit of a disappointment. The changes to Crucible and Vanguard are nice, but they're not really game-changing. While making strikes harder is good, it still lacks the imagination of a proper solution to this whole predictability issue. And don't get me even started on Crucible maps. I think it's become increasingly clear that the current format and content of the Ritual playlist will be the same for at least the next 2 years. I do believe that whatever comes after the final shape might hopefully include some kind of content reset at the very least. I hope they heed some of this feedback and revisit their stance on Gambit. I don't think it will take much to make people happy. I'd start by adding a vaulted map or 2 and maybe humoring us with some Gambit labs. That would be kind of fun, but alas, a gilded dredgen can dream. What do you think of the blog post, and do you think these changes are enough to keep things interesting inside of year 6? Let's discuss down below. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. There's tons of information being released by Bungie as we approach the release of Lightfall, and you're definitely not going to want to miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.